Okay, Madam Mayor, we'll be live in three, two.
Good evening. Welcome to the regular session meeting of the College Park Mayor and City Council. It is 7:32 p.m. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom, and we have a full quorum with all council members present at this time, so I'm calling the meeting to order. At this time, our first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to the
to
flag of the United States
States of America,
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which it
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice
and
for
justice
all.
for all.
Our next item of business is our invocation, and that will be performed by Chaplain Walker this evening. Mr. Hicks, is he with us?
No, ma'am, he's not.
Okay.
I think Chaplain Bill is here.
Yes, Chaplain Bill Walker. Yes.
Yes. Chaplain Walker, can you hear me?
Chaplain Dent, I see you on the line as well. If we're having audio troubles, would
I think
you?
Chaplain Bill is okay now.
Oh, he's okay? All right. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good. Let us pray. O Holy of Holies, be near and with us tonight in this city council meeting. We start our deliberations and our decisions by bowing ourselves before you and appealing that our good intentions of order and mutual concern for one another will be guided by your standards of universal love and care for all the people of the earth and for the earth itself. We gather as a suffering people with great stress, great worry, and escalating anxiety. We find ourselves doubting the good of others, especially of moral leadership. We feel a tug of regressive tendency to become more tribal in our thinking and our moral actions. We're suffering more mental and physical stress than perhaps ever before. Assist us, O God, in recalling that we all know that in the center of our hearts and the center of our minds, that you can comfort us if we would allow you to. We know about the dark and the destructive tendencies that can and are besetting us, the power to destroy our sense of order, to question our moral values, and to exist in the threat of chaos. Help us in our struggles to not fall victim to cynicism and to curse the darkness, especially during the times that we're under the effect of a virus pandemic, social unrest, the ongoing stability of our economy, and our question of how the best way to love our neighbor. Help us to see that we are not here to rage against the dark side or the dark forces, but to light a candle to help light the way. Hear our thanks, O God, for our mayor and our city council as they reflect, work, and make decisions to ensure that there is better order in College Park during these days. Hear also our thanks for our first responders and our fire and police departments. And last, but certainly not least, all of our city workers who comprise the container that make tonight's deliberations possible. Quicken all their minds and hearts so that the spirit of inclusiveness, love, and fair play prevails. As we enter into this winter holiday, help us to be aware, to be resourceful, and to be generous with all citizens and visitors in College Park. For we know that if we do not manifest love and concern for the citizens and for visitors, the light we hope to kindle may burn out. So assist us, our Father, to light this candle in the name of faith, hope, and love. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Item number 2 is additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda. Hearing none, going to move on to item number 3, presentation of minutes of City Council. So item 3A is the approval of the regular session minutes from November 16th, 2020.
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that sounded unanimous to me. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 3B is the workshop session minutes from November 16th.
I move to approve that as well.
All right, is there a second?
Aye.
I'll take that as a second, Councilman Taylor. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Item 4 is proclamations, resolutions, plaques, and announcements. And the only one we have on here is an expression of appreciation to Mayor and City Council for their support of the Conley Recreation Center Summer Dance Program by Tia Singleton Taylor of the Main Attraction Dance Studios and Dancing Towards Sisterhood program. I believe Ms. Ms. Johnson, you're going to make the introduction. Is that correct?
You're muted, Michelle.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to introduce Ms. Tia Singleton Taylor. She's from the Main Attraction Dance Studio, and she did a summer program with us, the Dancing Towards Sisterhood program that we've done for years at the Conley Recreation Center, and she wanted to say a few words to y'all and in recognition for the programming this summer. Ms. Tia? Mike, did you see her?
No, I do not.
He says she's on.
Nope. If she's on the phone, I don't see Tia Taylor at all.
Okay.
Then let's see if she's on the phone. 770-401. Nope.
She texted me.
Oh, I see Tim, Rob Beecham, Rochelle.
678-365-7186.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, well, why don't we just go ahead and move to remarks of citizens and we'll come back. Ms. Moore?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Our first public comment is from Yolanda Underwood, and let me just start my timer. And it reads, good evening. I want to share my experience with the Energy Assistance Program. I am a resident of College Park community since 2012. I completed the documental process in September 2020. I received the first call after about 3 weeks of my submission to be informed that I needed to provide proof that 2 members in my household had no income. The representative was not equipped to let me know what documents was acceptable as proof of non-employment. The rep stated that she did not know what was acceptable, that she was going to ask her leaders and she was going to call me back. That call never happened. I called to check the status after continuously receiving disconnect notices, which was an additional month delay. I provided the proof of family not being employed and patiently waited, hoping all that was needed had been provided. Well, after receiving the most recent interruption notice, I called back and I spoke to Anita, and she informed me that I now have incomplete documents and a missing certification form. Ms. Anita went back and forth with me and told me that they could not move forward until the documents were received. I had to now work towards providing this information after learning this after having my application in their possession for over 2 months. I immediately took this information on a third visit to the office. This lengthy, unorganized process would have been resolved if the process was planned thoroughly. My service was interrupted today, and I was told there isn't anything one can do until the credits had been applied to my account. I was notified by the interim CSM, Ms. Keels, that I need to pay $600 to be restored. I responded to Ms. Keel, letting her know that this was so unfortunate that College Park was being greedy to have someone waiting for an approval and get disconnected. Asking that one would have to pay money when money has been provided to assist the resident of the community. Once an application was received, that account should have been flagged without interruption until a decision was established. I'm hoping that correction to the process is more accommodating to the residents of the community rather than putting families in darkness with low dropping temperatures during the most irritating times such as this pandemic. I noticed that once I had let the interim CSM, Ms. Keels, know that I had no funds to pay anything and that I was going to expose the media of the negligence of the process and that I had no power, I was told that they had expedited the grant process and that they was now going to help me. It should not have taken all of this for the needed help. Please access it and get a functioning process that helps the community, not hurt them. Just as long as this email is, it was just as long for the process. If I can help in any way, please do not hesitate to reach out at the cell number listed below. Thanks, Yolanda Underwood. And that's okay, the next comment is from Mendel Robbins, and it reads, "Good afternoon, Mayor and Council and citizens of College Park. I represent the management of Diamond National Realty, LLC in College Park, Ward 2 and 4, and we own Crystal Gardens and Crystal at Camp Creek. Throughout Atlanta, we own numerous more properties. Collectively, we provide housing for several thousand families of nearly 700 units in College Park, or nearly 1,000 tenants. I was pleased to learn a splash pad is being constructed soon to offer our residents a refuge from the summer singe, provide accessible recreational opportunities, and create a heat-friendly public space. The splash pad is the future of College Park. Also, the new splash pad can be a place for our children of all ages and their parents. While they are playing, they enjoy physical activity. It's a great benefit when our tenants learn that there are amenities in the beautiful park within walking distance from their apartments. It is a great way for the residents to deal with the hot summers in College Park while cooling down at the park. Again, we support this amenity for your great city, and I'm proud that College Park joined the ranks of other cities that offer this for their residents. Mendel Robbins, Regional Manager, Crystal at Camp Creek Apartments." Okay. The next comment is from Marvin Miller, and it reads, "Greetings, Mayor and Council, residents of College Park, Georgia. I have lived in Ward 4 for over 30 years, and I raised my entire family here. Now I have grandchildren who will have the opportunity to enjoy the facility. I also serve on the Planning Commission under former Charles Phillips. Recently, I learned from the Ward 4 virtual town hall meeting that a splash pad is going to be built at Charles Phillips Park. The records indicate that the mayor and other council members voted unanimously for the project and that the city has received millions of dollars from the federal government to Fulton County Community Development Block Grant. This is the most substantial project Ward 4 has ever had. 2700, 2800, and 2900 Camp Creek, and 4001 Lakeshore Drive, Charleston Drive, 4060 Herschel, 2601 Roosevelt Highway, and 2515 Roosevelt Highway represent nearly 3,000 residents who can benefit from the splash pad. These residents don't typically go to Gobby Road or the Conley Park for recreation. To have this amenity where they live gets them out of the parking lots and allows them to enjoy the park. Phillips Park is currently being used by a diverse group of residents and visitors from various social and economic backgrounds and will continue to do so. I understand that one of 3 council member, Gay Critics, submitted a YouTube link of an isolated splash pad health concern. This city had a shortage of staff and the problem was corrected. There are nearly 30 splash pads in and around Atlanta and Hateville and East Point, and are currently in the development stages. The splash pads are amenities that thousands of families enjoy, and the residents of Ward 4 deserve the same experiences. We speak for many Ward 4 residents that we support the splash pad for our community and look forward to it being constructed. Okay, the next comment. It's from Bo Kazi, and it reads, "My name is Bo Kazi. I live at 1915 Rugby Avenue. I would like to give thanks and praise for our mail carrier, Phyllis, who has served our community. Phyllis is retiring the 24th of December. She is not only a dedicated employee, but an even more beautiful person inside. Always has a smile on her face when she greets you, the mile in customer service. The world would be a much better place if there were more Phyllis's in it."
Ms. Moore, before you go on, can we just make sure that everyone else has their microphones muted so there's no additional interference? All right, thank you, everybody.
Okay. The next comment is from Jackie Jenkins Sr., and it reads, "We have been living in College Park for over 30 years. I wanted to respond to the email shared by an anonymous citizen regarding splash pads. Our family, I absolutely appreciate the health and safety of our community. The YouTube link that was shared in from a news report in Hudson 2 years ago. Their parks and recs have 24 pools and 38 splash pads with a staff of 4 people. Compared to College Park, we have 2 pools and 1 splash pad, and we contract out the maintenance. The contractors we use do an amazing job, and I'm confident they will provide the same to our splash pad under the remarkable leadership of Michelle Johnson. There are approximately 20 splash pads in Atlanta Parks and Recs program. Fulton County Health Department permits these water features for the safety of our community. Our pools and splash pad will be inspected by College Park Willie T. Freeman Health Center. The CDC and the Fulton County Health Department from record has never closed any of the 20 operating splash pads in Atlanta. The more notable fountain is Centennial Olympic Park, with no health issues have been reported of the popular water feature. Our new splash pad is state of the art and will be designed by a civil engineer that will implement the latest safety features. There are many benefits to investing in a community splash pad. One of the long-term benefits is the revenue that residents and non-residents bring into the community, along with the added appeal of living in that area. Attracting people means attracting money and patronage to the community. Patrons eat at restaurants, buy gas, and go shopping whether they live there or visiting. Adding to the inclusive play opportunities for children is another important benefit. People are looking for inclusive areas that are built with children in mind, can appreciate design intended for their kids' physical and mental needs. Inclusive water play may be one of the only public areas that caters to all ages and abilities. Overall, splash pads can benefit a community both socially and economically. These are 5 splash pads that has never had any safety concerns and attract many visitors. Number 1, Piedmont Park, Legacy Fountain Splash Pad. Number 2, Toco Hills, Spiller Park. Number 3, Historic 4th Ward Park. Number 4, Atlanta Botanical Gardens. Number 5, Centennial Park, Fountain of Rings Splash Pad. My 2 sons were trained at that park to become professional tennis players, both practicing with Venus and Serena Williams. We're excited about a splash pad. We're excited a splash pad is coming. Jackie Jenkins Sr. Okay, and the next comment is from Audrey Wilson, which is going to be a virtual comment, Mr. Hicks. If that person is in the waiting room, you can let them in. And that will be followed up by Stanley Muhammad, which will also be a virtual comment.
Okay, I just moved over Audrey Wilson and I'll move over Stanley Muhammad. They're both moved over.
Okay, so Audrey Wilson, if you're there, I want to go ahead and start the timer as soon as you start talking.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and greetings, Mayor Motley Broom, councilman, and my awesome neighbors of the city of College Park. My name is Audrey Wilson. I reside at 3548 Atlanta Street B, and I am calling tonight to comment on conversations that I had with several of my neighbors regarding treatment by the police when they had called them. Their treatment was what I interpreted as being less than professional. I believe this speaks to two things within our police department: lack of supervision or micromanaging, as well as a low morale level among the officers. When I thought about what we could do to change this, I looked at the FBI's Uniform Crime Report that says and concluded from the data that they received around the country, increasing the size of police departments only increases the violent crimes in those communities. What was found to help communities was when a cross sector of the neighborhoods come together with the police department, business and industry, nonprofit organizations, and city officials to make the commitment to the community of a shared cohesiveness, trust, and a commitment to changing and transforming the community. In a nutshell, we're in this together, and we're all gonna have to be in it together to find the solutions. I hope that my neighbors will have a different experience, but we all have a role to play in that. I believe we can do this for these three reasons. We are humans, we are neighbors, we are College Park. Thank you and good night.
Okay, the next comment is from Stanley Muhammad, and Stanley has 9 minutes. Ruth Muhammad and another Mr. Muhammad yielded 3 minutes each to him, so he has 9 minutes total for his public comment. And Stanley, your minutes will start as soon as you start talking.
Hey, Stanley, you have to unmute your mic.
Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In the most holy name of Allah, the beneficent, the most merciful, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the sender of all prophets, the revealer of all truth, we thank Almighty God, Allah, for Jesus and the gospel, Moses and the Israelite prophets for the Torah, and Muhammad for the Holy Quran. If I live to be the ripe old age of Methuselah, I can never thank God enough for his divine intervention in our affairs as Black people in America and our Native American brothers and sisters in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, who raised up a messianic liberator and emancipator, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and his perfect helper, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, whom I'm a student of. I would like to greet you all in the greeting words of peace in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum, which means, may God's peace be upon you. I come in peace, wishing peace upon the mayor and all of the council and all the officials and all those who are in the vicinity of the city of College Park. I want to start with a scripture as a fulcrum about what I'm about to say real briefly. It's coming from the book of Matthew, chapter 25, starting with the 41st verse to the 46th verse, which Jesus was angry at those who were not caring for the poor and the destitute. And this is the foundation from the 35th verse to the 46th verse for real true government that actually cares about its constituents. He said, then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire. Prepare for the devils and his angels, for I was a hunger, and you gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you took me not in. Naked, and you clothed me not. Sick and in prison, ye visited me not. And then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee a hunger, or a thirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, you did not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. This government in College Park, our sister just talked about how her lights were cut off as a testimony that this government is not focusing on the poor and those who are vulnerable as they should. I opposed during the COVID pandemic, people are being furloughed from their jobs. People are actually struggling to find a decent meal for their children. But I humbly say, Mayor and Council, you increased the electric bill for your constituents during a time like this. That was one of the worst things you could do because you're not focusing on the poor. Humbly. And I think that we should revisit that decision. And I think that we need to look at how College Park is being structured. Mayor, you are in Ward 1 of the historical district. Same with you, Councilman Clay. Same with you, Councilman Allen. And to my understanding, the Chief of Police, Williford, is in the historical, the affluent area of College Park. And it appears that most of the decisions are actually geared towards that particular ward. Let me give you an example. We had the Chief of Police, Williford, his contract just expired. But he is not a chief that is really looking out for the best interests of the Black community of Ward 1 in terms of those who are struggling financially, Ward 2, 3, and 4. And we as citizens, we actually got a petition before the contract was renewed, and we said we want another chief of police. But against the will of the people, the contract was renewed. Chief Williford is not a chief of police that is looking out for the interests of our people. We went in the community. We had bad experiences shared with us about Chief Williford. It's not an attack on him, but we don't want to recreate a Breonna Taylor or George Floyd here in College Park 85% Black, but you got a white chief of police. It does not reflect the demographics. And I'm not going to talk about my negative experience. We talked about it. So College Park is now structured like a colony or a plantation. You have those in Ward 1, the historical district, where Woodward Academy is, where the slave master resides. And you have house Negroes who look after the interests of the slave master, but the field Negroes, the ones who live in poor Ward 1, poor Ward 2, poor Ward 3 and 4, they have no voice on the government. You are the voice of those who actually are giving you some benefit. That's what it appears to be. So it reminds me of Django Unchained in closing. You had Candyland, and you had Stephen, who played Samuel L. Jackson. So Black politicians who are councilmen on the seat, who do you represent? Where's your voice when it comes to the suffering of your people? I'm good to build buildings, but we're not talking about building buildings. What more important is building people. You can build a building, but that don't mean nothing if the person around the splash pad, the person around the building is homeless and hungry. I want us to be more sensitive to the people. And as public service is what we're looking for. And I close with this. The Article 4 of the Code of Ethics, 2 and 73, it says it is the policy of the city that the proper operation of democratic government requires that public officials be independent, impartial, and responsible to the people. And that the public have confidence in the integrity of its government. You're responsible to us. So how, when we give you a petition and say we want a Black chief of police, you give us a white one? We don't want Chief Williford.
It's time.
He's not qualified. He has a bad record before you hired him, and he did not have a degree. So who?
Mr. Muhammad, your time is up. Sir, your time's up. Thank you.
Is that Ms. Moore or is that the mayor?
Ms. Moore said it. Ms. Moore said your time was up. You didn't hear her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Moore, next.
I have no others, Mayor.
All right. For people who did not get comments in by 7 o'clock, you have the option of speaking for 1 minute. If you've already spoken, you do not have the option of speaking again. But if there's anyone who would like to speak for 1 minute, the floor is yours at this time. Mr. Hicks, do you see anyone?
No, ma'am, I do not. No one has their hand raised. I'm looking. No.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to go back to item 4A, which is with Ms. Taylor, Ms. Singleton Taylor. I believe she's here now.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
All right.
Miss Tia Singleton Taylor, you have the floor.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Greetings to the mayor, members of the council, and members of the community. My name, again, is Tia Singleton Taylor of Main Attraction Dance Studios. I simply wanted to take this time today to say thank you to all the members of the City Council for your continued support for our summer program, Dancing Towards Sisterhood. For the past 10 years, the City of College Park has dedicated their time to make sure that this camp is a part of the summer programs. We want to definitely say thank you. And this year, we actually look forward to working with the new team that is now in place, which is being headed by Ms. Michelle Johnson. So we look forward to the continued relationships. As you know, Camp DTS has been providing a safe haven for our young girls in the 303-4 and the 303-7 and further. So we want to continue to say thank you for your undying support. A special thank you to Councilman Roderick Gay, Councilman Derek Taylor, City Manager Terrence Moore, and of course the Mayor for allowing our camp to move forward with your summer program. We just want to take this time again to say thank you to the members of East Point and College Park chapter of Delta Sigma Theta for also providing PPE products for all the young ladies who attended our summer program. So again, we want to say a special thank you to Councilman Gay. Thank you again, Councilman Taylor. Thank you so much. And City Manager, Mr. Terrence Moore. Thank you so much. We hope to see you 2021.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to item number 6A. That's an update on the AMI billing interface and other related software. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an update of our advanced meter report and billing update, starting with our access point recent performance, and they're still performing well. It was interesting to see after the October 30th power outage that had basically all three access points out for several days. There were some numbers really jumping around. Kind of reminded me of wasps finding their nest after a storm, but after about 6 days, I think they settled down. But during that time, we had no meter communication problem. Next page is where we're continuing to troubleshoot, repair, replace, reset to keep our manual reads down, and this is still doing well. Really, this has exceeded our original expectation of the system. It took a while to get here, but we're past that point now, and we'll try to keep this down and improving. And then the last page shows other updates. 21 customers contacted about the water leaks. We have now exceeded over 100 customers we have contacted about this, and so far I don't think we've had to contact anybody twice. They're repairing them. Then our kilowatt hour sales, different from the pandemic, continues to be down. If you look at all the customers or the customers without the data center, or both of them, but our problem is commercial. That's why it's down this year. But that's pretty much it.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Richardson? Hearing none, we will continue to move forward. Thank you, sir. Item 6B is a discussion and update on recently adopted ordinances and resolutions. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Moore? Anything you want to add, Ms. Moore?
Ma'am.
All right.
No questions here.
Great. We'll move on to item 7A. It is a public hearing to consider a zoning modification presented by the Folia Group to the Hawthorne Station plan development located at 0 Karen Road to remove the zoning conditions for lot width and lot coverage requirements due to a change of builder to Rockland Homes. This is in wards 2 and 4. Ms. Alexander, are you taking the lead on this?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This petition comes to you from Rod Beecham. He is here on the line to present to you. You may recall that in 2018, the City Council voted to approve a plan development unit. It had 12 conditions attached to it, and there was also a development agreement associated with that project. Last year, we came before you as the applicant petition to modify some of those conditions, and it related to the builder and to have change the language to allow an alternative but equally qualified builder. The applicant's petition comes to you related to 2 conditions. So the request officially before you tonight is a modification to 2 conditions. They are related to the way the houses are organized on the site. So essentially, the housing product is similar to a single family detached residential house. However, the difference is the ownership coincides, the envelope of the house coincides with the lot. So it's similar to thinking about a townhome that is detached, if you will. So the ownership is a different ownership. So the platting of it changes. The common areas, then you're essentially what would be associated with a front yard or associated with what's a typical backyard, All of that is proposed to be under a common homeownership association. So that's the difference in the product type. What the request is then is to to remove the condition that establishes what the minimum lot width should be. So it established the size of the width, establishing what the front yard width of the house would be. What staff looked at was the layout. So the layout doesn't really change in terms of the street and the infrastructure, the number of units. So we did recommend to you, if you want to require that the yard remain the same dimension, then we propose some language for you in our staff report that would condition the project to provide for each home the equivalent of the yard frontage, the dimensions, the width of that. That is different than what is before, the site plan that the applicant proposed. We had recommended approval given so many of the other conditions would remain the same. The high quality of the builder, Rockland has homes of this type in the region. The elevations suggest the similar elevations of architectural materials is what you had approved. But again, the staff is recommending that if you want to require that distance, because you had put that as a condition when you approved it a few years ago, we gave you some language to do that. You don't have to, if you're happy with what you see and after the applicant makes their presentation, we just provided that language for you as a reference if you wanted to go that route. So I'll leave it at that. That's the bulk of the request to modify the project. Like I said, the applicant is here to make a presentation, and of course we have to conduct the public hearing.
Okay, Mr. Beecham.
Beecham, we're ready. You've been moved over. You can unmute your mic.
I unmuted. I had to unmute myself. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Good to see all of you again. I wish we were together in person, but understand that with all this going on, that this is will work. So thank you for taking the time to look at our presentation this evening. Rockland Homes currently has the project under contract. We've, with the changes needed to be made that we're requesting tonight, they'll move forward and immediately begin construction. I had sent over just a quick PowerPoint. I don't know if that's available just to walk through. Is that available? The little slideshow that I sent. Does anybody know?
Ms. Moore?
No, I don't have it, but if you have it, Mr. Beecham, you can share your screen.
Oh, yeah, let me figure out how to.
We do have pictures of the homes in our packet, as well as the layout of the facility as you're proposing it.
Okay, so I'll walk along with it because if you've got the picture. So the proposed Rockland site plan is, as Michelle explained, the way Rockland does a community is that the homes are basically platted very similar to a townhouse product. And the really beneficial thing to the community at large, as well as as Hawthorne Station, is that it basically guarantees that all the yards and even the exterior maintenance on each and every home is maintained by the homeowners association. And we've all seen communities where, one or two or a few homeowners don't keep up their yards and don't maintain the exterior of the homes, and that affects property values for all. And then if you get a home that goes into foreclosure or has some trouble. So Rockland's kind of pioneering this this idea of the HOA maintaining the exterior paint, roofing, and all four sides of the yard. The request that we have before you is only to remove the lot width condition, which before in a traditional layout made sense, but with the way that Rockland does homes, they have agreed understand that we have 300 maximum units and have agreed to keep 12-foot minimum between the homes, which was important to everybody in our first meeting, that the homes maintained distance. Minimum distance by code is 10 feet, and we've got 12 feet between the homes. So we actually have a further distance in most communities. What this has done for us is by grouping the homes the way that Rockland has proposed, it actually increases the green space, overall green space in the project. And I think it presents for a much more beautiful community. There's no significant change from the approved LDP. The roads and streets remain virtually unchanged. Maximum units of 300 will remain unchanged. And I think Rockland has provided some of the homes. So that first slide was the LDP that's approved. So that LDP was approved, I guess 2 years ago, and is still currently an active LDP. The next slide, as you can see, without careful study, does not look any different than the original LDP, only that the lot lines have been removed. Now, the way that Rockland does the homes it's similar to when you do a townhome. You file an amended plat with every time you record a sale. So the site plan, it gives them adjustable to change home widths and home sizes. And then, as they learn their product and understand who their buyer is, and as long as they maintain the 12 feet in between the homes and the maximum 300 units, offered to make their minimum price point at $250,000. Our original agreement last year, when Pulte was looking like they were going to be the buyer, their minimum price point was going to be $220,000. So Rockland has stepped it up, and we believe is going to deliver a superior product. I think besides that, those are the major changes. I would ask you to not add any additional verbiage, as I think it will be complicating to the development of the project, and that we're simply asking to maintain 12 feet between units. Minimum width, and we could add a minimum width of homes at 30 feet if you would like, because that's the size house that they're planning on building, is a minimum of 30 foot wide. But their product will start at a minimum of $250,000, and they are ready to start immediately. With that, I'll answer any questions.
All right. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have a couple. If you said you could either buy the land or you could not buy the land, is that correct?
No, the land, if you went in to buy a house in this community, you are purchasing the land, but like a townhome, the land that you're purchasing is only underneath the footprint of the house.
So I cannot buy that even if I wanted to?
No,
I just have to buy the footprint.
Yeah, you're going to buy the footprint, and they give you rights to, like Michelle asked, you can fence your backyard. So there's a virtual lot line, but when you fence the backyard, you have to provide gates. It has to be an approved fence, and it has to have gates on both sides to allow for the maintenance of the property. So that's the purpose of doing it the way they're doing it, is not to exclude use of the property from the homeowner, but to make sure that the property all stays maintained, and that the project stays beautiful. So they've chosen to do all four sides of a home like this. Rockland has a community there near College Park that Councilman Gay and I have visited, called Cascades, where, when you drive by, you don't notice anything different. It's not, you don't see it from the street that this is a different way of doing it. Only thing you see is all the homes look nice and the yards are mowed and, there's pine straw in the flower beds. So it really is a benefit. And one of the things they found is that, today's buyers don't want big yards. They want a low maintenance lifestyle. So similar to a townhome, lots of people are buying townhomes because you don't have to take care of the yard. You don't have unexpected costs for roof repairs and all of those things. So you get a lot of the benefits of a townhome ownership, but you get the privacy of a single family home. So you don't have a neighbor right on top of you, but it's a really carefree, kind of a maintenance-free home ownership experience.
It could be kind of, if you have 300 homes there and 20 years down the road, the HOA is in charge of the roofing and the siding, and you have a lot of roofing repairs. Say you have 200 roofing repairs, HOA is going to have to come up with $1 million if it's $5,000 roof. So they're going to have to come up with a large amount of money.
Yeah, I talked to Rockland about that, and of course we do a lot of development, and most of our communities are townhome development. So you start developing reserve funds as part of your HOA dues. So if you're paying $250 a month, maybe only $150 is an actual cost, and then there's $100 a month going in reserve because they've calculated average time of roof repair, maintenance, paint, all those things, and so they create a budget that should manage all those future costs.
Okay, I mean, just thinking 20 years down the road, they could have a lot of cost. And one other question, you said the HOA is going to take over after 75% build out or houses sold?
It's usually after house sold. The builder, Rockland, does, will do everything in their power to keep the community looking beautiful. The last thing they want to do while they have product for sale, is to allow, typically when I'm doing a community, I don't stop till at least 80%, and then I drag my feet.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I drag my feet to try to make it to 100%. I don't mind bearing the costs because I want to get out of the community. And
okay, I just saw the build out, and I'm thinking that when you finish building them, rather than
sales.
selling.
Yeah, it's sales. They're gonna maintain presence on site till the last house is gone.
Okay. Those are the questions that I had.
Thank you.
I had a question with regard to the, what happens if the homeowners association or the building stagnates and you don't reach the point where the homeowners association turns control over to the residents? What happens to maintenance of the outside of the house in that situation?
Councilman Clay, one of the things to remember is it'll be developed in phases. So what you're not going to see is 300 developed lots and 10 houses. So, as they go through and develop the project in phases, generally it prevents having an obscene amount of unsold product. Now, Rockland is extremely well financed, and I think if you look at any of the other communities, this year at that Cascades project that I referred to, that's very similar to this, and in the neighborhood, they've sold and closed over 100 units this year in that community that'll be very similar to this. So I don't know that they will face that, but as a developer, the way you try to prevent that is developing in phases and never develop past, too far past what your absorption rate is. So they currently have 3 phases, similar to what we had planned, a 3-phase approach. And so you shouldn't see a lot of maintenance costs developing should the project not proceed as planned.
Okay, but what if, because the economy is so uncertain and COVID's uncertain and what have you, what if the builder simply files Chapter 11 for whatever reason? And yes, you've only built 1/5 of the subdivision, but that 1/5 needs to be maintained, and you haven't come anywhere close to 75%.
I believe there's a representative for Rockland online, and if he's there, he could speak up. But, you know, again, if you built, you know, if they develop 100 lots and sell 50 and then stop, let's say, you know, and the world comes to an end, the budget to maintain those 50, each one of those homes, as it's creating a reserve budget, you know, like I said, if you've got a $250 a month HOA fee, they've calculated the average life expectancy of a roof, how many times, you know, every decade a house has got to be painted, and there's an individual reserve amount that's being taken out of the monthly HOAs and preserved for those maintenance fees. So you only need one house's dues to pay for one house's maintenance. The only issue you're going to run into is if there's, for some reason, the roof doesn't last as long as the manufacturer said it was going to last. And in that case, you know, you may have some conversations with a manufacturer, but otherwise the cost shouldn't exceed the intake of revenue, because it's budgeted to manage itself, kind of, you know, one for one.
So is that escrow then that is maintained by the Builders Homeowner Association, if you will, is that escrow untappable? A builder gets in trouble and they're heading toward Chapter 11. Can they take the money out of the escrow for other things? Or is it truly escrowed and inaccessible for anything but maintenance on the homes?
Well, an HOA is a separately set up LLC. So it should be, and I know when I'm doing a community, it operates as a separate entity. I don't have access to those funds, even though as a corporate partner, you know, I'm managing that part of it, but the escrow money goes in escrow. And if it was something that we wanted to add, is just, you know, to make sure that the escrow accounts are maintained and untouched, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. It's common practice that you do that. And I think you would have very big legal problems as a builder if you start going broke as a builder and you start taking money from one company, which the HOA, Hawthorne HOA, will be its own separate entity. Rockland Homes should not legally be able to withdraw money from the HOA other than to pay bills. So it's not a.
Okay.
Can I interject for one moment here? And it's only because I want to make sure that folks are ready, because we will be having a public hearing on this issue. And I want to make sure that everyone knows how to log in for that. And so, Ms. Moore, if you could just let everybody know how to do that so they can be prepared when we open up the public hearing.
Yes, ma'am. They can go to www.collegeparkga.com, click on government, and then scroll over to council meetings. On that landing page, you will have a link right under public notice that has the Zoom information on how to log in for a public comment. It's right there on that page.
And once you're here, you just click the raise hand button. I see that someone is already ready to participate in the public hearing. We have not declared it open yet, but I did want everyone to be prepared when we do. So if you want to say something, you'll have that opportunity. I apologize, gentlemen. Councilman Clay, the floor is yours.
Okay, now that pretty much answers my question. I'm just concerned, if I were buying a home there, I would want to make sure that the maintenance was going to be taken care of with the funds that I'm paying to the homeowners association. And,
Sure.
and if we can put language in to ensure that, or if the law already ensures that, that's fine.
I know Winston I saw Winston on the line, but I'm pretty sure that it's part of the establishment of that LLC, is that the escrow is the escrow. Now, could somebody raid it? Sure, but they're going to probably go to jail if they did. So I think it's safe to say that it's safe money, but if we need to add a comment to that, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that, but I think we're okay with it just being common practice, and I think the law would back that up.
Okay. Any other questions, Councilman Clay?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
I just had one comment for Michelle or Rob. The only thing that we're basically changing is the lot, taking in consideration the envelope of the house. That's the only thing we're changing from the previous agreement, correct?
Yeah, and what we're asking for is we had a lot width minimum or two lot widths. We had a 50-foot and a 60-foot lot. And because of the way that the community is being developed, it no longer applies because, you know, the lot width technically is the width of the house. So it doesn't apply in the same manner. What we're requesting is it just a removal of the lot width requirement since it no longer applies, but we've agreed to maintain the maximum of 300 units and also 12 feet between units. So technically the home size that Rockland's going to build is the same, essentially the same home that all the guys that build in this price point build. Is the same general width. So the appearance of the neighborhood will be no different than it was, but we have a zoning condition that says the lots have to be 50 feet or 60 feet, which we can't live up to with the way that the property is being proposed to be developed. So we're just asking that that zoning ordinance condition be removed. And also, since the lot is only underneath the house, it says that only 40% of the lot can be developed. Well, we're developing 100% of the lot because the lot is technically underneath the footprint of the house. So we're just simply asking for no other changes, just removal of those two conditions and leave every other condition in place as is.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you only had one question. I'm sorry, Councilman Gay. Please go ahead.
No, you're right. But I just want to add to that question, the maintenance of the homes now, because it's owned by the HOA, it's not the responsibility of the homeowner. So we get the upkeep of the lots now is consistent with one company, right?
Yeah, they'll hire one big company at some point. They may maintain it themselves through some phase. And then eventually when the HOA takes over from the builder, they'll have the right to negotiate, you know, their own agreement with XYZ landscape company, you know, with a painting contractor, with a roofing contractor. They'll be responsible for negotiating those deals. But, you know, they'll come into the neighborhood and start mowing on one end and keep mowing until they get to the other end.
Let me ask you, I got one more question. You said, you know, you're taking the lot, no longer want the minimum size lot. What do you think, what is your minimum size of your lot going to be?
It's the house, right?
Yes. Well, the minimum width of the lot now is the house because the lot is defined as being underneath the footprint of the house. So the houses that Meritage proposed, Pulte proposed, and Rockland has proposed all have been 27 to 30, probably 3 feet wide. So that's pretty common for this price point of home.
I was just thinking if it's the side of the lot is the house size, I mean, you could have one that's 12 foot away from the other house, and you could have one that's a very narrow house, and you could have, you know, like 25 feet. And it goes straight up, and then you have your next one 12 feet over. You know, it would look a lot like apartments, but that's just I just didn't know what your minimum lot size you predicted would be.
Yeah, I would say the house that they've proposed is 30 feet wide. So that is going to be probably their minimum go-to, and it'll have, you know, 10 or 15 different elevations and configurations, but they're going to have a 30-foot wide home. The only thing you may see is as the project moves forward, if prices increase some, let's say they're thinking they're going to be 250 to 300, and 2 years from now the market's 300 to 3 1/4. You know, it improves. They may go to a 32-foot wide house. And, it may expand and it may, but what they're proposing is with a maximum of 300 and with 12 feet in between them, it should maintain the same appearance as what we presented in the past.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, just a comment, Mayor.
Okay.
So if you have a 30-foot wide lot, a 30-foot wide house,
Yes.
then you've got a 42-foot wide imaginary lot. And I'll
Sure.
say imaginary lot because it's not really a lot
Right.
per se, right?
That's correct.
So I presume that means then that if I bought a house there and I wanted to add, say, a bay window on it, so that would change the footprint of the house. Well, maybe not the footprint, but it would change the house and
Sure.
change the maintenance on the house. Could I do that? Can I make changes to the outside of the house?
Well, that's a good question, Councilman Gay. And I'm sorry, Councilman Ambrose. I don't know the answer to that. I would assume that if there's 12 feet, if they're building a home that's 30 feet wide and you have to maintain 12 feet between the homes, there's a possibility to go out the back. You're not going to come out the front. There's setbacks on the front and there's setbacks on the sides. I would imagine the only expansion that you wanted possibly to do would be out the back because there's lots of backyard. I mean, the lots technically are 100+ feet deep. So you could probably go backwards towards the rear if you wanted to. But
So you could in theory add on to the footprint of the house toward the rear.
yeah, I would
But
imagine.
then if you did that, wouldn't that increase the cost of the maintenance on the house? You've got more roof and you've got more outside siding and so forth.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if anybody's ever brought that up to them, but maybe they'd have to adjust, your HOA fee up to, but I can't imagine anybody is going to add a big enough addition. I mean, I just don't see that as this type of neighborhood. I mean, people are moving here for convenience, for carefree lifestyle. And, that's a great question. I don't know what the answer is to that, but if they added a significant, if one home's significantly larger than the others, then they would have to have a proportional HOA adjustment, I would assume.
That would make sense to me as well.
Any other questions?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Anyone else on council have any questions? Hearing none. I am going to declare the public hearing open. For those folks who wish to speak, raise your hand. Looks like we have one person, Rochelle, who wishes to speak. So Mr. Hicks.
Yes, I'm muted.
All right.
Hello, my name is Rochelle Mason. I'm at 4038 Arlene Road. Jesse A. Dent Road now. So one, I noticed that you had verbiage where it says you virtually unchanged when it comes to the streets. One thing I wanted to make sure was that means no changing to the throughway right behind me. So that is to continue to stay closed. Am I right? Because I was trying to look at your diagram, but it's too small for me to see all the little changes that you had on there.
Yeah, the roads have not moved. So from the original, and I'm not sure I understood your question, but none of the roads have moved and none of the homes are closer to any property lines than, the back of the house of each home is no closer to the perimeter property lines than they were in the past. So I don't know if that answers the question. If it didn't, help me understand what the question was better.
Yeah, it was just that I knew that they wanted to at one point try to open up Karen Road, which ran right by my house. So I wanted to confirm that part.
Yeah, that's out. That's off the table. There's only going to be one main entrance, and it's the new parkway or road that comes directly off Herschel. And then there's a secondary kind of emergency exit, which will have a fire access only which will come down Charleston, but there's pretty much one way in, one way out with an emergency exit, a secondary emergency exit.
Okay, and then my second question was, you keep mentioning townhomes as the new, I guess, one of the new layouts and condos or what have you for this community. Exactly how many townhomes versus single family homes are going to be in this development?
Well, we mentioned townhomes only as a reference to how the lots are platted. Right now, there was no, in the original LDP and zoning conditions, there was no condition made for a percentage of either. There was just a maximum of 300 units, period. Right now, Rockland feels like that the single family home is probably more attractive than townhomes. So they currently are planning to build mostly single family homes, but with the way that they propose to do the project, and again, with the revisions on the zoning conditions that we've requested, they could add some townhomes later on if the market demands it. But right now, the current proposed site plan shows 300 single family homes.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions for this.
Thank you. All right, it looks like Chaplain Dent has her hand raised.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Marjorie Dent, and I live at 4021 Jesse A. Dent Jr. Road. I would like to know exactly where is 0 Karen Road?
I don't know. I apologize, but I'm not really familiar with I'm guessing it must be that easement. There was a back easement on the Karen Road at some point, but we've abandoned that and have no plans. But the property, when we bought it, did not have a street address. So, there still is not a assigned street address. So somebody used that address in the past, but it doesn't really have any meaning.
I'm trying to get a picture of this because when I get out my driveway, turn right, I turn right on Karen Road. There is a open lot to the left, and all the others are houses. Mm-hmm. So where is 0 Karen Road?
Yeah, I'm just not sure, ma'am. We've never used that address, so I don't know where it came from. But
okay, so are there any traffic coming through? Because there is a dead end that's sealed.
Yeah, it stays sealed. There's no traffic from this community is coming down Karen Road whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Rochelle?
Okay, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
0 Karen Road is considered the street that's right behind my driveway, Mrs. Dent. So the White House that you run into when you come to the stop sign, if you keep going, that's 0 Karen. That's not my property. That's the city's property.
All right. Thank you.
We have no intention, and there's no design or no plan to have any exit point or connectivity to Karen Road in any way, shape, or form.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Beecham. 53841. Can you please identify yourself? But you need to unmute first. There we go.
It's Kathleen McQueen.
Okay.
Well, it's great news that, new development is coming into the area. I'm concerned about the lot size itself, and I thought I heard 12 feet, and that's relatively close from one home to the next. My concern is your resale value of the home, because a lot of individuals, when they purchase, they like some privacy, and that type of a home seems like you could almost look into your neighbor's window.
You can.
I'll address.
Rochelle, would you mind muting?
Oh.
Thanks.
I'll address that concern. I would say and can speak definitively on this is the trends in lot sizes over the past 7 or 8 years have continued to become smaller and smaller. People don't want big yards. They don't want maintenance. And most communities have a 10-foot minimum separation, in which I'm currently building in multiple communities on the north side of town. I've got homes in the 700,000 range that are on 38-foot wide lots with 10 feet between the lot. So lot size doesn't determine value or any longer. And with property and land increasing and costs increasing, one of the ways to combat ever rising costs and affordability is to try to maximize the land. One of the ways we do that is also to minimize the impact on the property is to try to have the homes closer together and leave larger portions of the property undisturbed and undeveloped. But 10 feet is, I would say, probably 80 or 90% of the homes being built in Atlanta right now have 10-foot separation. And I would say the vast majority of lots in Atlanta being developed right now are 40 feet or less. So, and that's across all price points. That's not segregated to any one price point.
Mayor Motley Broom, may I make one other question?
You may ask another question, yes.
Okay, that said, especially Ward 4, I love Ward 4 because of their property. They have large property lots. And now you're kind of making an adjustment from what Ward 4 is known for. And how do you fit into the aesthetics of the existing community? And second, do you have an existing footprint of what that lot size would look like on the southwest side?
Well, Rockland Homes does have a community that we've toured, and I know Councilman Gay had toured it with me a month or two back, called Cascades, and which is very close by. But those that community's lots, I think, are 37 or 38 to 40-foot wide lots with 10-foot separation. So I would say, and I understand the idea of big lots and kind of historic areas, but any new development and any new developer that is out developing property right now is building for what the market is demanding right now. And what we see day in and day out is a low maintenance lifestyle is one of the driving things that people are buying. And the other thing they want is more green space. So they want less private land, less lot, but more community space. And that's kind of the driving philosophy behind most of the development that we're doing. And again, and then the secondary reason is because there's cost reasons. If we did half-acre lots in here, you'd end up with a 75 half-acre lots, and we'd have to start in the 500,000s, which wouldn't be marketable, in today's market. So I think this community is going to be beautiful. It's going to bring a lot of wonderful families. It'll bring some new blood. It'll bring great working families. And the way that Rockland has proposed it, it's going to stay beautiful because of the way that the property is maintained, which is, I think, a really important thing to consider for council when considering our modification requests. Is the way that Rockland has set this up is it's not going to just look beautiful while they're there trying to sell homes. It's going to stay beautiful. And I think that's a great benefit to the community. I think it'll be something that you'll appreciate in the years to come.
All right. So does anyone else wish to speak for the public hearing? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is hereby closed. Any other discussion from council? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I would like to make a comment, Mayor Broom, and then consider a motion. I visited the similar subdivision over off the Cascades, and they do compensate with a lot of additional green space. I was amazed with that it had sidewalks, walking trails. It was beautiful hardscapes. I was just really impressed, and so I'm comfortable with it. We took about 5 or 6 residents over there, where we got some residents already saying they want to move out of their large house and downsize to a smaller house. So I'm very excited, and the city is very blessed to have this developer to want to put this type of investment in our community. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the changes to the agreement.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. That's all 4. It's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beecham. Item 8A, consideration of an action on a request for approval of the replacement of the 7.5-ton air handling unit at the FAA regional headquarters.
Madam Mayor and gentlemen, it's pretty straightforward as outlined in the agenda transmittal. However, I believe we do have Ron Wilkerson in position to articulate any responses to questions you all may have regarding the consideration.
Perfect. Good evening, sir. How are you? Or maybe he's not here.
Ron Wilkerson.
Budget.
Does anyone have any questions?
I have no questions.
This is a budget item? Is this budget?
It is a budgeted item.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Via the FAA fund.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Moving on to item 8B, consideration of an action on a request for approval of a solar initiative power purchase contract between the City of College Park and the Municipal Electric Authority of Georgia, MEAG Power, to purchase 2 megawatts of solar power for 20 years. Mr. Richardson.
Yes, Mayor and Council, MEAG has given all its participants the opportunity to add solar to their resource portfolio. This is a project that we built in Sumter County, Georgia, and will not be completed, of course, until 2023. I'm recommending we look at 2 megawatts, which is a conservative number. This 2 megawatts will not be added. They will be actually replacing our excess power purchases or any other resource we have. So it will not be adding to our cost, just replacing. And the price they're quoting is really very good, especially to be fixed for 20 years. They're asking that each participant commit to the megawatts, approve the contract and resolution, and then later they will add the company name, the county, and the percent entitlement share. So that's where we are tonight to recommend this. They're pushing this, try to push this before the end of the year, I think, because the company's trying to get some tax incentives before the end of the year. So that's why it was suddenly put upon us. But if you have any questions, of course, this will be peak and power only. And we will only pay for it as it operates. We won't be getting 2 megawatts every hour during the year, but we'll be getting a portion of it as the panels perform.
Yeah,
I had a couple of questions, but go ahead and
go ahead, Mayor. Go ahead.
It seemed like if we were in the situation where another community defaulted, that could be passed on to us. Is that correct?
That's true. They explained it to me that we would actually pick up a pro rata portion of their capacity, which to me is fine. I mean, we may not get a lot. I mean, the most that we would get would be a 25% increase. in our case, 500 kW. We'll go from 2,000 kW to 2,500.
Uh-huh.
So if several defaulted, it wouldn't be 25, 25, 25.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. It's not cumulative, Mayor.
Okay. Great. Okay. That's good to hear.
This cost is really, if you do the math on it, it's probably on 100 to 150,000 a year out of our $31 million power costs.
And this is, I mean, in terms of trying to be more environmentally conscious, we are phasing out coal, bringing in solar into our portfolio. So
that's true, because we're losing the Wansley units next spring.
And that makes up for, they were what, about 3 megawatts? Or are they more than that?
The Wansley, we were losing about 13.
Okay.
But we're not getting this till 2023, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, you know, one of the questions that I didn't get an answer from you was what is the conversion efficiency of the solar photovoltaic cells? And the reason I asked that question was if the technology, if it's low, my recollection was it was under 50%.
Yeah.
That in the future, if there's some kind of a breakthrough and that technology improves and someone comes up with a cheaper solar unit, they could sell the power to us even cheaper than that. On the other hand, your answers to the other questions say that, well, other sources of electricity are already significantly more. So even if this is lower, we'll still be in a good place to sell our power out on the network, on the grid.
I think the key to this is the price, and that's what MEAG was saying. They didn't really have an answer specifically about the efficiency. They did quote me. There was a Canadian solar project that set a record last year at 22.8%. Does that sound right?
Well, I think maybe they're talking about overall efficiency over 24 hours or something. And what I'm getting at is, 100 watts of solar energy hit the cell and you get maybe 40 watts of power out of it. That's the efficiency. And if there are some technologies that are being looked at now that could significantly increase that efficiency. So now all of a sudden it's sort of like gas and coal, that you have gas being a lot cheaper to provide energy than coal. So in theory, this type 2 solar, if you want to call it that, could be cheaper than our type 1 solar. And I was trying to reconcile, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean that we're still environmentally friendly, but we don't have the cheapest power around? But considering the fact that we're so much less expensive, I've rationalized it, at least for myself, that this is still a good deal.
I think so.
I'm going to move to approve unless anyone has any other questions.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
No, I'll second that. I think it's a good idea.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right. Thank you. That was unanimous. All right. Item 8C is consideration of an action on a request to adopt a resolution approving a tax allocation district project within the 6 West development recommended by the Tax Allocation District Advisory Council. Mr. Jones.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Back during the fourth quarter of 2019, the City of College Park submitted to the Fulton County School System a tax allocation district project application in which we were requesting funding from the tax allocation district to finance infrastructure improvements. Due to COVID-19, the school system, the Fulton County school system, did not evaluate our tax allocation district application. During September of 2020, the school system requested that we update our tax allocation district application and that we submit our application by December 31st, 2020. To update the tax allocation district application, I met with the Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee on November 18th, 2020. And at that time, they approved additional projects within the Tax Allocation District number 1, and requesting approximately $30.4 million in tax allocation district funds. At this time, it is a part of the process that this same tax allocation district application be approved by the City Council prior to being submitted to the Fulton County School System. Staff requests that the City Council adopt a resolution to approve the projects recommended by the Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee, and these funds will use to fund infrastructure improvements such as roads, detention ponds, and also the acquisition of 2 Fulton County Board of Education properties. I'm here to address any questions that you might have at this time.
All right. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have, Artie, I sent you a list of several, but effectively, if council approves this tonight, has it been approved then at least for the county, not the school system, but for the county portion of the TAD? Are we the last approval required to take advantage of the county portion of the TAD?
Yes, sir, because the county also sits on the tax allocation district advisory committee, because they sit on that particular committee, they have approved it also.
Is that Ms. Roach?
Yes, Ms. Roach and Councilman Wyatt.
Okay, good. All right, now it makes sense. Okay, so then really this approval tonight will get us that amount of money. And if the school board approves it, we'll get an additional allocation.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I apologize. I didn't see your questions. I've checked my email and I don't have anything from you. I apologize.
Well, that's all right. Let me just say though that there are some errors in the forms that are included in that list of questions, and I don't know whether that makes a difference or not. It doesn't sound to be. I think it's understandable, but they're incorrect in at least one of them. When they talk about the amount of money, there's a chart that says you take this minus that, it's reversed. That column heading is reversed. I don't think you can understand what it means, but I don't want it to get hung up in some legal issue because it's misleading or something. So you might want to check that out. Outside of that, it seems like a no-brainer to me.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 8D, consideration of an action on a request for approval of a 1-year landscape maintenance services agreement for the Georgia International Convention Center, the arena, Main Street, and detention ponds.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We did put out an RFP for landscape services. When we first put out the RFP, everybody came in too high. So we went back to the people that bidded on them and asked them to lower their prices. And we got their final prices, and we are recommending Russell as our new landscaper. Russell Landscape.
I have a couple questions, Ms. Miller.
Okay.
Okay, what is the price that, I don't have the bid package in front of me, the price that you're recommending, their 1-year cost?
It's $201,600.
200.
That is for $201,600.
Okay, I'll be real brief. I'm a degreed horticulturalist and nationally recognized amongst other things. I did maintenance, design and landscape for nearly 20 years. I'd like to make an observation. Public Works currently mow about 4 lots that we don't own. Those John Deere tractors are currently mowing about 4 lots that we don't own. I've been told that it's just been our practice. Second thing I want to say is that Councilman Taylor is correct in that we used to mow Main Street, and there was some conversation and we took that away. As far as the Georgia National Convention Center goes, the only real lawn is, the medium and the parking lots. I guess all I'm trying to say is for $200,000, it's my professional suggestion that the Public Works could absolutely maintain the exact same area. That will be a tremendous savings to the city. Jason Edwards does an amazing job as far as seasonal color. That's the only other thing. As far as the retention ponds go, they only have to be done quarterly, and with herbicides, they really don't even grow that much. So I'm just one person, but I'm just saying that we're looking at saving costs. We could try it for 1 year, and I think the quality will still be there, and we could save nearly $100,000.
Okay, Councilman Gay, when I haven't always did the landscaping for Main Street or the retention ponds, that was given to me through the previous mayor and council because Main Street was not being maintained the way they thought it should be maintained. And the retention pond was not being cut as often because Public Works did not have the staffing for it. So even before I brought this bid to you all, I did go to Public Works, and they would have to bring in staffing to be able to take care of the retention ponds at Convention Center and Main Street.
Well, you and I propose, and it's just for the new elected officials, I propose that we should always turn the retention pond into a floating fountain, and it should actually be landscaped. But that's another conversation, especially is in the front door of the GICC. To this day, I don't understand how you have a fence in front of a $100 million building. But anyways, the point is, Jason Edwards can easily maintain that retention pond with the right equipment. As a matter of fact, we can actually use the same equipment because there's some other right-of-way areas that we need to be maintained. I just can't see how we would offer $200,000 to a contractor that we could do it absolutely ourselves, because we're cutting right-of-ways that we don't even own right now.
But we don't have the labor.
Well, for $200,000, he could hire 2 people.
No, I do not have the labor for that to maintain the detention ponds. You're talking about a big area where it takes a lot of manpower that Russell will bring out to actually mow that. They don't mow it necessarily all the detention pond with equipment. A lot of times it's a lot of manual labor, which be intense given the fact that we have other responsibilities as far as other landscaping that we take care of in each of the wards and so forth.
I'm not going to follow my sword, as Councilman Phillips says, but I'm telling you all, even if you just take out the retention pond, Mike, even if you just take that piece out of it, there people all day long can cut our retention ponds for $20,000 a year. These are not big areas, sir. We do the retention pond at
you got to look at it. Detention pond.
Hold on. Wait. Let him. Councilman Gay, go ahead.
You know where Winthrop Drive is, the retention pond behind 4001 Lakemont, right? We sub that retention pond out. It's as big as the GICC retention pond. We only pay a couple $1,000s to cut that. But I just think we got to learn how to save costs, and we can't bear the total cost. We got to save costs by really thinking through on these contracts and getting an objectional view and make the hard decisions that everybody got to Gotta lower their costs, and that's $200,000 is just too much to be paying when you got a full maintenance crew just sitting there. I know these guys. I deal with them. I talk with them. I'm with them every week, and I know you can do it if you just prioritize it.
Mr. Mason, have you had the opportunity to take a look at the areas that in question?
Yes, I have. And there's no way we can maintain the detention pond. Detention pond is a small amount of that total $200,000 at one contract. Very small portion of the mowing that we get done. As far as like Mercedes just mentioned, Main Street, the upkeep of it, it seemed to work out better by having the landscape company do that mowing. That's something I can look at doing. I don't have a problem with doing it. We mowed it in the past. We can continue to mow it. But the detention ponds, I don't have the manpower for that. In addition to all the other responsibilities that have been put on building grounds over the years.
I just think you got money to bring more staffs. That's all I'm saying. With $200,000, that's 4 or 5 employees that you can add to your team. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. Ironically, just today, I got an email from a citizen that noted the item on the agenda. They have a landscaping background, and they just commented and they asked me, well, are we going to have the same person doing it, the same company doing it next year? And they were commenting on how good Main Street looked over the past year. Well, you know the bid recommendation in there, so it isn't the same company. But the difference is that it was a professional landscaping company doing Main Street as opposed to Public Works doing it. And nothing against Mike's guys, but these guys specialize in specific beautification of areas. So I'll just throw that into the mix that personally, I agree with Councilman Gay in one sense, is that we've got to save money if we could truly save money doing this. And the question that we can ask, and I know a lot of people are going to be angry with me for saying this, but if Main Street looks seedier because we don't do as good a job of mowing or keeping the flowers watered or what have you, and we can do it a lot cheaper, I don't want it to look seedier, but frankly, we've got to make cuts somewhere. And that's what Councilman Gay is one of the things he's saying. So I'll just throw that into the mix. If we want it to look as good as possible, I think we're better off staying with it, the landscaper, a landscaper that does it professionally. But if we want to save the money, maybe we should go with Mike's people if he can really save money. I'm not sure he's convinced he can do that, but if he could, maybe Main Street doesn't look quite as good.
How much money would we save? Do we have any idea? I mean, because you're going to have to maintain equipment.
On the quote, the Main Street aspect of it is about $32,000.
So can we do it for significantly less than $32,000 and maybe not have it look so good? And that $32,000 for that whole area is maybe not too much. I'm not a landscaper, so I don't have a good feeling for that. I do photovoltaic cells, but not landscaping.
Councilman Clay.
Someone's saying Councilman Clay.
Yes, I am. Artie.
Oh, yes. Hi.
About 4 years ago, when economic development, I guess, or the Main Street program actually took over, I guess, the landscaping for Main Street, it's not simply, like you said, just cutting the grass. It's the edging, it's the flowers, it's the putting the pine straw down. It's a lot of, they have crews of anywhere from 5 to 8 people that come out to knock that stuff out on a regular basis. And I think that even if you had 2 people just to take over that responsibility, it would take a lot more time. And I'm not sure if you have the expertise. We are trying to find ways to cut back. And we have actually, when we went back to get the additional bids through Mercedes, negotiating with them, we had them to take out some of the, I guess, the flowers that they put out, because that was very, very expensive. I think that was probably somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000 by itself, in addition to the bid that you guys have received. So it would be, like I said, very, I would think that you would probably need about 4 people that would be dedicated to Virginia Avenue and Main Street. And I'm not sure if, like I said, that those people would, it's kind of like the landscape people. It's like they're downtown College Park, like every other day, putting something out early in the morning. They're always cutting. That's why it looks very, very, you know, it has that curb appeal.
Right.
It looks okay. It looks okay. I've been living here for 30 years. It looks okay. What I'll tell you is, look at how well Mike Mason crew cuts the parks. Look how they put the pine straw down in the parks. It's the same guys. It's just pine straw is pine straw. They edge. Matter of fact, look at how they cut City Hall when they leave. Look how pristine City Hall look when they leave. And they can't do a better flower planting than we're doing now. I think it's a duplication of services. I'm just trying to save us money. I'm good. If you want to give them 200 grand, that's up, yo.
I think I'm saying the same thing that you are. Mike and them, they do an excellent job. What I'm saying is that 2 people aren't going to cut it. I'm saying is he's probably going to need somewhere between 4 and 6 people to actually get out and be able to do that and to take care of the other things that you're talking about. They do an excellent job. Mike's people does an excellent job, but I know that he is very, his staff is very strained in what they can actually provide for us in their current capacity. But I know if he had the people, he'd be able to do it. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
Mr. Mason? I'm
Okay,
sorry.
No, you're right, Mayor. Go ahead, Mayor. Go ahead, Mike.
That's definitely hitting to where I was going, where for me to look at it, well, I would need a whole new crew, a separate crew to take care of the downtown area, to give it the attention that it needs. Right now, we've been, I guess, kind of thinned out as far as putting the time in. Yeah, we can go down there and mow it, but given our other responsibilities throughout the summer months, it wouldn't be kept up to the standard that where we are today, given the streetscape, the flower pots, and I just would hate to see that go down by the wayside, because we get pulled in different directions during the summer months.
Let me ask this. Has there been an analysis done to see what we would expend in order to maintain the same level of services?
No.
No, not
Perhaps-
on my end. No.
Perhaps that's what we need to do between this meeting and the next meeting, so we can actually compare, because it seems like we're talking about something we have incomplete information.
It's
So
hard to
do
see
we
if you don't know cost.
right? So I mean, if Mr. Mason were to bring on X number of people to do this work, how much would that cost the city? And so we can compare apples to apples.
And Mayor, they have to be people that are trained to do that particular task.
Understood.
Or could be trained.
Understood. But it seems like we're speculating here. There's an opportunity for us to get a little bit more information. So is there a pressing need to handle this tonight?
No, we can bring it back.
Okay. So if someone wants to make that motion,
I move that we defer this to the next council meeting.
is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. And we'll get a little bit more information about that so we can make an adequate comparison. Appreciate that. All right. So item 8E is consideration of an action on a request for approval of bids received for professional engineering services for CDBG funded projects. We only got one response on it, so is there any questions on this?
Well, I guess my only question would be, obviously, we only have one response. Is this something that how do we do it now?
It's been done by this RFP applicant in the past. So MetroCorps has worked with us with the CDBG in the past years on several projects. So
I believe including the Badgett and Brady as well.
Correct, along with the playground. So yes, so we've done.
Okay, so this is an extension of an existing contract, or is it they've been doing it freelance and now we're putting them in place in a more fixed contract, or what?
So it's been used for the CDBG in the past. We put it out since we did the cooperation agreement with CDBG for the next 2 years, thinking that we would have other projects moving forward.
Okay, so this is kind of a renewal of a contract then. Okay.
But it was out for RFP though.
But it was put out to RFP and we only got one responder and it's a renewal, and I move to approve.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure that was all 4 of you, correct? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Item 8F is a consideration of an action on a request for approval of an annual service agreement between the City of College Park and Motorola Solutions, Inc. for maintenance, support, or other services for the police public safety radio system. I believe this would be Deputy Chief McCrary.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Does anyone have any questions for Deputy Chief?
I did, and I asked them of her in advance, and I had one question that she gave me an answer, but I'm not quite clear on it. We have a charge in there for late charges, which means we paid something late. And is it true, Deputy Chief, that there was confusion as to who was supposed to pay the bill? Was that the issue?
No, sir. It has the address of City Hall, and we didn't get it until November. So when we got it over here at PD in November, it was already late. I think we had a mix up in the transition from City Hall to here, but we're going to contact the company and make sure when they send out the invoice that they send us a duplicate here at PD as well.
Well, okay, but is this a monthly billing or is it an annual billing?
It's our annual.
Yeah, it looks annual.
Okay.
And the invoice date was June 7th and you all just now got it?
Yeah. I mean,
in November.
Did they let you know that they hadn't received the money, or how did you?
I believe when they didn't receive it, they then sent the invoice to Chief Williford.
Okay.
But it goes to the address first, which has City Hall's address.
Yeah. Oh, that even when they sent it to Chief Williford, they sent it via City Hall?
No, I believe at that point, he got it via email.
Okay, all right. Well, so it got caught up in the COVID confusion is what it sounds like.
Yes, sir.
But you've got a solution to rectify it. It's something that has to be done. There's no real choice. I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second, but we need to, make sure we stay on top of.
Amen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's unanimous. Moving on to item 8G, consideration of an action on a request for approval of the indemnification and hold harmless agreement and right-of-way maintenance agreement in substantially the same form as attached between the City of College Park and the Georgia Department of Transportation for implementation of the Main Street College Parklets project. Mr. Moore?
Yes, Madam Mayor and gentlemen, this is simply the necessary agreement to proceed with the College Park Parklets project between us and the Georgia Department of Transportation. It was an engagement involving legal counsel, city engineers, and everyone else involved. So I think this is a pretty straightforward consideration based on consensus and direction offered by Mayor and City Council to collaborate with the College Park Main Street Association offered back in the month of June. With that, it's pretty straightforward in my mind, and therefore we recommend approval.
Any questions?
Yes, I asked some, and I think I've got a pretty good answer. My concern was liability, that we were taking on a lot of liability, and GDOT was basically saying, you guys are liable. And the answer I got back from Winston's staff is basically that yes, but we are going to pass that liability, at least when it comes to the parklets themselves. If, let's say, they're improperly maintained or something, and somebody gets hurt on them because of that, that liability, GDOT's not going to take that liability. That's passed on to us. But we're not going to take that liability either, because we're going in the agreements to the various restaurants for their responsibility. They are going to acquire that liability. Now that's the answer I've gotten. And if that works, I'm good with it.
Anyone else? All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's unanimous. Item 9A, consideration of appointments to the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee for the update of the City of College Park Comprehensive Plan by the Atlanta Regional Commission. Ms. Alexander.
Hi, good evening again. As you had in the packet, and as we spoke last month or at our last meeting, we're looking for your appointments to the steering committee. I did send out a notice to inform you that one of our steering committee members has to be an elected official. That comes from the Department of Community Affairs. And when we met with ARC, they reminded us of that. So we're ready to take your appointments to the steering committee.
My appointment to the committee will be Eileen Murphy, who was on the Planning Commission.
Great.
My appointee for Ward 3 will be Gerald Caddis.
My appointee for Ward 2, I'll get back with you tomorrow in person.
Sounds good.
My appointment will be Celisa Jefferson.
Okay.
And I will get back to you as well. Still waiting to hear something. So.
Understood. And then if you don't mind, if you can send me contact information and we can begin the process.
When do you expect to get in touch with these people? Because my gentleman was asking. When will you be getting back in touch with?
Well, ideally, we would send out notifications to them all at the same time. So I guess as soon as we have the full committee appointments filled.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we need to make a determination of which elected official?
Yes.
I recommend Ambrose.
Second.
Well then, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Did it before.
All right.
Wouldn't do any good if I voted no, probably.
And then according to, if I understand our ordinances correctly, we need council approval for committee members. So I don't know if you'd want to maybe make it a motion to allow the mayor to approve as they come in, or, you know, to finalize the appointments. So then we wouldn't have to come back to you to make that kind of finalization.
Does that require a vote, or just can consensus be achieved?
I as a legal matter, I defer to Winston. I think the way I understood the ordinance, it says by city council approval. And so I'm assuming that's an official approval.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, my position would be
Motion
that
that allows the mayor to finalize. Sorry.
it would require a vote of the council, and I think it would be difficult to vote to approve when you're not aware of who you're approving.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Can you get them at the first meeting in January? Can we get the whole slate in January? Is that going to completely gum up the process for you?
Not at all. I don't see any issue with getting in contact with folks that are going to be your nominees and provide them information. And we can still get started with the information side of it if acceptable to you before getting final,
And we can just go ahead and approve the slate at the first meeting in January. Sound good?
But you will get in touch with the people that we nominated tonight, right?
I will get in touch with those. As I said, I would like to get in contact with them all at the same time. So if I can get from the remaining members, their appointees in the next couple days, that would be great. That way by Friday, I would love to send them a thank you letter for their service and get running with informing them of our tasks together.
So it sounds like what you're saying is when the mayor gets her word back and we've got all 5, then we can send a letter out, right?
Yes.
And Councilman Taylor. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I thought Councilman Taylor had somebody. I'm sorry.
Tomorrow. He said tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay. Well, then Mayor and Councilman Taylor, and we're ready to go.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item 10A, second quarter budget adjustment considerations. I got to say the 10A and 10B sort of come together. We're going to be talking about both of those within each other. So I'm going to make a decision either the discussion's going to come up. So 10A and 10B, we're just going to discuss together. But Ms. Flord Bradley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Hello.
Yes.
I do have our financial advisor, Ed Wall, on the line, and he will present.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Could the host allow me to share my screen? Thank you very much. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
So Terrence and Mercedes and Althea and I wrote you all a memo, and I think it was in your package. I'm going to hit the highlights and get to the meat of it. We all start off in the memo to Mayor and Council that we did 3 things back when we did our budget, and it's all worked well. And this is consistent with the presentation that we made to you when we did our 3 months actual versus budget. But we had the increase in sanitation rates, increase in water and sewer rates, and increase in electrical rates. Those were all very badly needed. All of those funds have been acting in accordance with what our projections would be, and those funds have turned around. They're doing well, and they're doing what we want them to do. We cut the budget for hotel motel tax revenues, and I'm at this part right here. We cut the budget in hotel motel tax revenues. We cut the car rental tax budget, and we cut anticipated revenues for arena and GICC. Unfortunately, COVID has got us in its grip, and we didn't cut it enough. And so in speaking with Councilman Clay, we wanted to set out a list of our assumptions as we make these recommendations to you. And here were the 3 assumptions, the main one. The first one is COVID-19 won't let up until May 2021. And to be specific as to what we mean by that is we don't think a switch will magically be flipped, and by May of 2021, we'll be back to normal. But what in normal meaning way things were in January, February of this year. What we think is the vaccines will have taken effect. People have taken vaccines. People will feel more comfortable. Travel will come back. Conventions, seminars will come back slowly but surely. And so we're thinking that in May we'll come to you with, or in April we'll come to you with a new projection of what we think revenues will be given another 3 months underneath our belt. And these recommendations are assuming that that travel hospitality industry will start to come back in May of 21. The second item here is revenues for the hotel motel tax and car rental tax will stay suppressed for the entire of this fiscal year, June 30th, 2021. We don't see a dramatic increase in any of those revenues for this fiscal year. And hopefully in our fiscal year 22, we'll start seeing an improvement in those revenues. And then lastly, the protocols relating to the spread of COVID will cause the GICC, in particular in the arena and park, to not be able to have events. And we won't produce any measurable revenues until May of 2021. So that means that for January, February, March, and April, we're thinking that the protocols necessary for COVID will continue to suppress any events that we could have at the GICC or the arena. There's some exceptions to the arena. We'll talk about that later in the presentations, but we're not seeing any activity at the GICC because of the protocols for the spread of COVID. So let's be specific about it. The hotel motel tax revenue budget, the 8% number, we had budgeted at $8.5 million. We received approximately $380,000 a month for our current year so far. We'll go to Exhibit A and talk about it. But assuming that remains the collection rate for the rest of the fiscal year, we anticipate only collecting $4,560,000 of this $8 million budget. That's the 8% tax. The hotel special district tax of $2,435,000, we're expecting to collect that, and that is at budget. So we think that our recommendations for going forward will need to accommodate the fact that we'll have a $4 million shortfall this year in hotel motel tax revenues. The next one is a car rental tax budget. We assume $3.6 million in car rental tax revenues. That's the $3.2 million from the actual collection of the tax, and the $400,000 that we had negotiated with the city of Atlanta when we did the 10-year extension. We think we'll get the $400,000, but we won't get the $3.2 million. So I wanted to set out for you all how we would go about collecting that. If you remember, we had a make whole. The city of Atlanta's general fund will pay us that amount if they don't make the payment to us. And it goes for 2 consecutive years, that if they miss for 2 consecutive years paying us $3.2 million, they will make us whole for the amount by which we failed to collect. So that would be $6.4 million over a 2-year period. They would make us whole 6 months after the end of their fiscal year. And the city of Atlanta's fiscal year is June 30th. So we got December of 20, we were supposed to get a check. We aren't expecting anything at all. Atlanta has to collect $8.8 million from the car rental tax before they start paying us any $1. And we're anticipating that for this year, for their year from January, December of 19 to December the 2nd, 2020, they won't have collected even the $8.8 million. So we'll get nothing this year. We'll get some amount next year. We don't know what it is. We don't think it'll reach $3.2 million. And so on that's December of 21. So on June 30th of 2022, that's the end of Atlanta's fiscal year. 6 months after that, December 30th of 2022, they're to make us a payment to make us whole. So that'll be our FY23 year. The Arena Fund, it's been operating, it had operating budget that we approved in June of $3,200,000. The first 3 months, we had operating revenues of $69,000. Mercedes has submitted a list of expense reductions in Exhibit B. These recommended cuts total $984,000 for the remainder of this fiscal year. That'll be from now, basically January through June 30th. We're assuming that the arena will have additional revenues for the remainder of the fiscal year of about $350,000. So these adjustments are as follows. $3.2 million is the budget. Mercedes is going to cut it by $984,000. We had $69,000 in revenue. We're hoping 350,000 for the second 6 months. So there'll be $1,797,000 shortfall that the general fund is going to have to maintain or cover for the arena fund. We go to the convention center fund. It has an operating expense of $8,200,000. For the first 3 months, it produced revenues of only $255,000. Mercedes has listed some recommended expense reductions in Exhibit C. Those amount to $2,500,000 of that $8,200,000 budget. The big note is these recommendations necessitate closing the GICC completely for the months of January, February, March, and April. Remember, one of our assumptions was that we were hoping in May that some business would come back. So we would come to you in March or April and recommend reopening it in May, or we may recommend keeping it closed May and June. This assumes reopening in May and June. We expect revenues of about $200,000 if we open it up for those May and June months. So the original budget was $8,200,000. Mercedes has gotten $2.5 million in cuts. We've had actual revenues of $255,000. Were we to open it up May and June, which that is this plan, we would have additional $200,000. You know, those months you have a lot of graduations, you have cheerleader events. And so that would leave a $5,245,000 deficit to be made up by the general fund. Whit Maloney, who works with me, did a big analysis of all of our debt issues. And one of the things that he has recommended, and I recommend it to you, is that we take certain of the bond issues that we have and we take the principal payments that we would make for the next 3 fiscal years, and we refinance that with a 15-year maturity. And so the savings would be this amount right here. And so our big payments are always in September. So for this fiscal year, that payment is gone. The next big payment is March the 1st. So we can eliminate $2,200,000 in principal by not paying it and just refinancing it over the years 4 through 15 going forward. And then these fiscal years, I would save $8 million, $8 million, and $6 million. The extra cost to the city to do this would be $1,224,000. So we wouldn't ordinarily want to do this because you only refinance debt if you're actually saving money. Here you're doing it for cash flow savings, but because you're not paying the debt in these years, but you're paying it 15 years from now, which would be 2035, we'll have extra interest charges. And that amounts to a present value cost of $1.2 million. This one I hate the most, but it gives you the most savings. The rest of them are really cost savings. Here, I'm adding to your cost over time, but I'm saving a big amount in cash flow. The general fund, Althea did some crunching of numbers for the general fund. She has an Exhibit E. The general fund can have savings for the rest of the fiscal year of $1,626,000. We can get into the specifics as I go to the exhibits of what that is. But in a nutshell, to summarize, the hotel motel tax revenues is projected to have a $4 million less collection than we had projected. The car rental tax, we're going to collect $400,000. I'm assuming it's even because we had cash fund balance in the car rental tax. We can, the money that we had projected to spend in the different funds from the car rental tax, we can use the cash fund balance that's there. The arena fund's $1.8 million in the hole. The convention center's $5,245,000 in the hole. We can save $2.2 million as a positive number by refinancing certain of the College Park debt issues. The general fund would be $1,626,000 in savings. So were you to accept these recommendations tonight, the general fund is expected to pay $7,219,000 from its general fund balance savings between now and June 30th. If you did nothing, then we'd add these amounts here, and we wind up spending about $11 million. And then it's very important because we're only going to come out of this over time as COVID eases up and our revenues come back. Althea and I are going to start working on a 3-year budget projection and come up with a 3-year plan to restore our fund balance back. I want to go, if I could, to the exhibits. Here is the hotel motel tax receipts, and it gives it to you by month. And you can see down here the monthly collections around $380,000 a month. We used to collect about $1 million a month. Here were the suggested expense reductions in the arena. Mercedes is on the line. We can get into all the details if y'all want to. Is there any questions that any council members have on all the projected expense reductions for the arena?
Well, I don't have any questions. The problem I have is I don't really know what's behind those numbers. You know, when we talk about various cuts. So I'm just going to have to trust that you made sensible cuts.
Can you talk about that a little bit, Mercedes?
We did cut out some staff. We cut out some shared, I guess, employee funds, like we pay for security for basketball. We pay for contracted staffing for basketball. A lot of the proof concession area, that was where a lot of the money came from. We didn't have a lot of capital money in this budget. We did take down some of the heating and air because on days that we don't have anything, we try to shut it down. And we will be cutting some staff from the arena.
Will we be getting any money from the WNBA and the G League of the men?
We're still working with the G League. We will hopefully know within the next 2 weeks. And with the WNBA, they are holding dates. So they're waiting on the league so they'll know if they'll play or not, but we don't think they're going to play with fans. So that will affect our food and beverage and also our staffing.
So if you look, Councilman Clay, at some of the big amounts, these contractual services with $349,000 in savings, and then the security services, $164,000 in savings. That's a big amount from the savings part.
And that comes from the ushers, the people that wait at the door, security guards, all the staff that you need.
Those are no-brainers. I mean, that makes sense. If you don't have people, you don't need that capability there. And those are externals, so that we're not hiring under contract people to do that. The general fund is the one I'm more worried about when we get to it.
Okay. GICC recommendations for the cuts. You can see how this is amended budget, what we spent year to date, what we expected to spend for November and December, then the estimated through 12/31 total, the estimated remaining budget, and then what the reductions are. And so it was $2.5 million in savings. You can see here, a big amount coming from employees. I hate it for employees. This is the worst part. I hate this sort of thing. To go over here, some more big amounts. Contractual services, security services. Because we aren't selling anything, a big amount comes from all the commissions from the cost of sales, kitchen, all of that can be saved because we aren't having any business at all. And then there's the total $2,501,000 in savings. But Mercedes, this necessitates closing for the months of January, February, March, and April, right?
Right, that's closing and only keeping staff that we need there because we will keep some of the staff for cleaning, just to take care of the building and maintaining the building. And when they do play basketball, the staff that we're cutting from the arena, we'll send the GICC staff over to the arena to work. So we're going to be sharing staff because we're going to have to cut out almost half of our staff.
Mercedes, you're sort of mothballing, a term that I've used in industry. But whenever you mothball, there's sometimes, or not always, but there's sometimes a spin up time when you want to put things back in operation. And I believe from what I've read up to now, you've tried to keep key staff in place so that you could spin up fairly quickly.
Yes.
Do you have an idea of what that spin up time would be? For example, if I called you up tomorrow and said, hey, I want to have this big event and there's a whole bunch more coming, so it makes sense to open up the arena. How long would it take you to, how much lead time do I have to give you for my event?
Well, I have enough staff that can make it happen. I would just need more hands on deck to move chairs and move equipment, but I am leaving enough staff that they could direct it and make it happen.
Right.
And it's a matter of calling the staff back. So within the
calling
next
people and hoping that they are available to come back.
Exactly.
And presumably, and I'm just speculating now, presumably our economy is going to come back in the hotel, motel, entertainment, et cetera, is going to come back, I think, before the rest of Atlanta.
Exactly.
Maybe that's, I think that's what Cookie thinks. And I
yes, the airport properties always come back before the city. And with the Georgia World Congress Center, they book things 5 to 10 years out, and then an airport property is very short term. So we would get the business first before it went downtown, because larger events only book years out. They usually don't book within 12 to 18 months.
So what that tells me is you ought to be able to get a hold of our people and get them back.
Correct. And while the building is closed, I am having some of the salespeople as well as the DMO salespeople. They are still going to be selling for the dates when we open back up.
Good.
So if something big comes in May, whether it be a graduation or an event, they are constantly talking to clients and also trying to book events. So we're not giving up on booking events.
Good.
And I think the numbers have reflected that. I mean, the back to what you were saying earlier, Councilman Clay, about the numbers that we get from the DMO reflect that the dip in this area has not been as pronounced as it has been in the city.
Right. Now, our problem is that it is so much more of a percentage of our income in this city.
Absolutely.
But as far as how badly that percentage was impacted, it's not as bad as elsewhere.
Still bad, but not as bad as elsewhere.
And not as bad as elsewhere.
Graduations, when do you think we will hear about graduations, possibly in the arena or wherever you want to put them?
We'll probably know about graduations by March. They'll know whether they're going to have them or not.
Are most years colleges or high schools or?
We do all of Clayton County. We do the South area for Fulton County, and then we have 4 college graduations.
Can you speak, Mercedes, as to why you don't want to close the arena?
Well, I don't want to close the arena, one, because we have the contract with the G League. So they are still holding dates, and we're still trying to work out some things with the G League. And then the WNBA is still holding dates, and we're working with them. They have asked for dates. They're just waiting to see what the league is going to do. So and it's less money to keep the arena open than it is the convention center.
And
So
if both of those were to cancel, would you revisit the issue of keeping it open?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
I won't bore you with the debt restructuring, but you can see here by refinancing the debt, how we're making the savings in these years here. And then we've increased in debt service here. And so this is what our debt picture looks here. So we're these $16 million pieces, we're lowering them down and then redistributing it. Where here, it'll now be 13 million, 14 million a year.
Right.
And so the present value of this is just $1,244,000. And because $1 here is worth a lot less than $1 here.
Yeah. And I asked for the net present value rates and I got them, and they make sense, I think. I think this is brilliant. I think you guys did a tremendous job. The cash flow issue is killing us. Now, if there's another COVID that comes along 3 years from now, that's worse than this one, that could blow us out of the water. But the technology that's being developed to fight COVID-19, that technology is going to enhance our ability in the future to handle all sorts of things that we never were able to handle before. I talk about medically now.
Mm-hmm. It's translatable to other vaccines.
So I don't think we have that same risk.
But what I
I'm going to knock on wood, Councilman Clay. Okay.
Knock on wood. I'm knocking.
I'm knocking. All right.
You hear me?
Well, what I thought I heard Mr. Walls say, that he and Althea were going to get together and kind of relook at the budgets down the road and see if there's ways that we can be prepared.
Well, so we're going to come to you with recommendations for FY, things to do for FY 21, 22, and 23, so that by the end of the 23, we're in better financial health than we were before COVID started. So it's like a 3-year plan to restore all the money that we're spending now.
Thank God we had the buffer that we have had that has been built up over the years.
And no question about it. And Councilman Allen, I don't know what those recommendations are going to look like. Althea and I are going to start doing it, but But the important thing is we're going to have a plan.
We need to have a plan. So
I had a question for Mr. Walls.
Yes, sir, Councilman Gay.
I had recommended several months back to refinance the bond debt. You brought it back up tonight and you have it on the screen right now. You came back and told us that you didn't get any banks that wanted to refinance the bond debt. Has that changed?
So what you had asked me, I think it was maybe October or November, about this time last year, can we refinance and save money? And the answer was there were 2 bond issues that I thought we could refinance on a taxable basis, because Donald Trump's new tax bill will not allow an issuer to refinance tax exempt debt with new tax exempt debt before the call date. It just completely outlawed it. So I'd have to do a taxable bond issue to refinance tax exempt debt. And so we put out a bid to 20 banks for refinancing those 2 issues, and we didn't receive any bids. And so there were just 2 issues that had real interest cost savings. Here, we're doing it for cash flow savings and not interest cost savings. And so this is a little different, and I'm expecting we'll get more bids on this. What happened before is interest rates have gotten so low that some banks just aren't willing to lend money at these real low interest rates. And
the second part of my question, in terms of us saving money, the debt to refinance this bond debt, is that negotiable? In other words, there's a fee to do this. Can that bond debt be financed? Can that bond debt be refinanced in-house? In other words, can our finance director do this bond debt? Like if I call a mortgage company and try and get my own loan, or do we have to pay the cost to refinance this bond? Because that's about $1 million in savings.
So I normally charge a 1% fee. And because I've been representing College Park for a long time, I'm going to cut it in half and only going to charge a 0.5%, because, y'all need all the savings you can get. And we'll make sure that the bond lawyer does the same. And your finance director is sharp as she can be. This isn't her day job. And so she'll need somebody like me in order to know where to send the bids and to actually
That is
structure
correct.
all the debt. And so you'll have to have somebody like me to do it. But I just wanted you to know I'm doing it for half of what I normally do, and we'll make sure the lawyers do that as well.
Okay, the final question I have is, did you say anything about BIDA debt in this financial? I didn't hear BIDA debt.
Every bit of this is BIDA debt being refinanced. You have very little debt that ain't BIDA debt.
So I didn't hear land sales as part of debt service.
So the budget requires a land sale of $3,600,000 from the sale of BIDA land. BIDA has a contract for 11 million that they're hoping to close in March of this year. And then there's currently under negotiations for another $4 or $5 million purchase price. And so I haven't brought this up because my assumption is BIDA will be able to sell that property.
So just so that I'm clear, the land sale is not part of this debt restructuring that you showed us tonight, right?
I'm not.
It's not in these numbers. You're basing this on refinancing the bond debt and cutting costs, but not the land sale is not part of this.
Correct. In other words, if we were to sell $15 million worth of land, we might not do this refinancing. I mean, we might. This is costing us $1.2 million to do it. If we were to sell $20 million worth of land, I could eliminate having to do this.
So why isn't it in this projection? Why?
Because I don't know for sure we're going to get it sold.
I think we have to make assumptions. I mean, we have to play the worst case scenario and prepare for that.
We played the less worst case and found out that we have come up short.
Yes.
Okay.
Have I answered the question, Councilman Gay?
I just think the two ought to go. Let me see, contemporaneously at the same time. I just don't think if we're gonna do it, if you're gonna give us a projection, for me, I'm just speaking for me. I would like for you to point the land sale out so that I don't be totally focused on these, because we may not have to cut a lot of these costs if you get the $11 million in land sale.
So
$3,600,000.
I'll be coming in order to get the $11 million in land sales. We're going to have to build a road from Camp Creek Parkway, which is called Rhodes Avenue. We got to build that from Camp Creek all the way up to Princeton. And currently,
why is that?
Both of the developers who agreed to buy the land made as a condition to them closing, having that access from Camp Creek Parkway. That was just a condition to close. And so Artie and I have been working with architects and engineers, trying to get an actual dollar price to bring to you about what that would cost in order to get that road built. So
they can pay for that out of the land sales. That's you're not gonna come to us asking for money to do that.
So we're trying to structure it such that the land purchase will pay for itself, kind of like we did Gateway, where those two hotels and the office building back in 2008 paid for itself. We're trying to work on a plan that you don't actually come off the hip with any money to build that road, but we hadn't put all the pieces of it together yet.
But Ed, in the longer, that's in the longer term. But in the shorter term, we just approved a TAD tonight.
You did, and so if the school board were to approve the TAD, it'll be money from the TAD to build that road, as opposed to us BIDA having to issue bonds to build the road.
Yeah, because we will effectively borrow against that future income that the TAD is going to make.
Correct. And so, Councilman Gay, from the first 11 million of any land sales, we as a mayor and council have agreed that we're going to use that to pay the general fund back what BIDA owes it. So I remember we've talked about the fund balance in the general fund a lot of it's not real cash. And so rather than have land sales go to build that road, we've locked down, Artie and I have in negotiations with developers, and the first 11 million in land sales going back to the general fund's checking account. Only after that would we come to you with a repurposing of land sales to any kind of infrastructure.
That helps a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, go ahead. Mr. Wall, go ahead.
So the last piece is a general fund reductions totaling $1.6 million. I'd like, if I could, to turn it over to Althea to explain these.
Yes, Councilman Clay, you did question what was to break down the reductions of the general fund. Well, I met with each department listed, and we did discuss areas that they could possibly reduce some expenses. So they are all on board. As far as there were some vacant positions that they could freeze for up until June 30th that were vacant, and there were some expenses that they could reduce as well. And there were, with the police department, there were capital expenditures that they are going to reduce in order to reduce the transfer from the car rental fund. So $709,212. That's operating expenses as well as positions, vacant positions. There will be, at this time, there won't be any layoffs or anything of that nature. Those are just the salaries with vacant positions. And the $917,000 is a reduction in transfers in from the car rental fund, which would cut the capital expenses for new police vehicles and motorcycles and equipment.
Yeah, well, that's the part that's 9/10 million. So you can buy an awful lot of cars and things with that, and that's the area that particularly concerns me. How
I did speak with the chief. He did put in the order for, I believe, 7 vehicles early in the fiscal year of 2021. And those vehicles haven't come in yet. So he does have a new set of vehicles coming in. So he was okay with delaying this purchase until the following year.
Okay, I don't want all our police cars breaking down on the way to a crime.
Deputy Chief, how many vehicles did the police chief order for this fiscal year that are coming in?
Unmute, Deputy.
I was on mute. I believe he did order about 6 or 7, and they'll be in once they are. They don't have all the cars in at the time when he placed the order.
Yeah, I know we cut out some of the take-home cars.
Yes.
But I think the number you're referring to is probably right. 6 or 7 is sort of what I remember too.
I just got a confirmation it's 6 vehicles from Willis Moody. 6 vehicles.
Okay, but 6 vehicles at say 50,000 a vehicle, that's 300,000. I've still got 600,000 I got to worry about.
There are 2 motorcycles, equipment. And so,
wait a minute, hold on a minute. You weren't cutting out those 6 vehicles. Those are already on order.
Oh, yes, that's already.
Yeah, so that's not part of the cut.
No, sir, not at all. I'm sorry.
So that was fuzzy thinking on my part. So what, so if 6 vehicles only adds up to $300,000, what in the holy heck's name are you cutting out?
Well, this is separate. This is a totally separate order. I believe there were 10 vehicles here. Equipment, I can bring up the breakdown. Equipment, motorcycles, and I think that's about it. They were all coming from car.
All right, so you're talking about you're talking about transport is
Correct.
Basically.
Correct.
You're not talking about vests, for example, bulletproof vests.
It was the vehicles, it was the equipment that go inside, like the cage and the radios and things like that inside of the vehicle.
Okay, I feel a little bit better.
And the
So
bulletproof
rather than
vests are
6
covered
cars,
by grants.
so rather than 6 cars that you already have ordered, you've got a few more that you have stopped order on.
About 10. There's 10 we stopped order
Yeah.
on.
Right.
To add up to
Right.
that 917,500.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Mayor, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments?
I think they've just done an incredibly excellent job of working a very difficult issue. And I just want to thank and congratulate all Ed and Mercedes and Althea and all the staff that worked on this. Artie, really great job. I mean, this is the kind of performance, when life gets tough like this, this is the kind of performance that makes winners versus losers.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Councilman. It's very difficult. These are difficult times for College Park.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So how much money do you think we will have in the general fund if things don't change? I mean, like.
You mean in reserve?
Yes.
So if you all approve these recommendations tonight, we project that June 30th that you might have about $2 million left and the general fund is reserved. That's cash. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what going forward, we'll use tax anticipation notes to try to manage cash flow till we can get it restored.
Okay.
But there are some possibilities that might help us, like Sandersville, for example, like selling some of the land, more of the land than we thought we were going to sell. I mean, there are some good things that could happen, but we just can't count on them happening right now.
Right. We have to plan for where we are and look at that and assume that this is the way it's going to be.
Yes.
And make decisions accordingly. So obviously one of the assumptions in that adjustment consideration is the temporary closure of the GICC from January 1st through April 30th. If there aren't any additional questions, I'm not certain why we would separate that vote between the budget adjustments and the closure. I mean,
The whole thing is one package.
Whole thing is one package.
And I will move to approve that package.
Adopting the second quarter budget adjustments and the temporary closure of the GICC.
And the temporary closure of the GICC.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second
Councilman
it.
Allen, second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay. All right. All in favor. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. City Attorney's report.
Nothing this evening, Madam Mayor, than to say Merry Christmas, and I hope you folks enjoy the cookies.
Oh, thank you. Item 12A, City Manager's report, revisions to the City of College Park's acceptable use of city-owned vehicles policy.
Yes, ma'am. This is not a recommendation for authorization. It is something that was executed administratively. Given a recent event involving an elected official and a minor automobile accident, my interest was to clarify the acceptable use of city-owned vehicles policy, making it explicitly clear as to who would have the capability of operating a municipal vehicle, specific provisions in the policy relative to employees, etc. Not elected officials, not volunteers, not others working collaboratively with the city, but specifically city employees. Direction is likewise being offered to advise the city's general liability policy agents that this is in fact the case. Nevertheless, because of the aforementioned incident back in November, we are on the hook for about $1,000 in terms of the deductible. Not about, but actually $1,000 in terms of the deductible. So my interest this evening is to simply advise City Council that direction to this effect has been executed. And with that, we should be more clear in terms of who has capability and who does not. Next update, of course, is the top 10 delinquent property taxpayers and delinquent utility customer counts. Unless there's any further questions or concerns about either of those items, I yield.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions on
No questions.
12A through C?
Right.
All right. Report of mayor and council. Councilman Clay?
Well, I'd just like to wish everyone a happy holiday and look forward to a hopeful new year, and thank everybody on staff. I think we've done an amazing job of dealing with a very difficult situation. And I hope all of you stay healthy. To that end, I will mention that I inquired of Chief Elmore today, and we will be giving out free flu shots at the COVID testing on Wednesday. And I think we're going to put that out on the city website. I've got it on my website right now. There's a flyer on that. And I strongly recommend that you get a flu shot, because I don't want to get, I've had mine, and I don't want to get and go to the hospital when all the beds are taken up with COVID patients. The other thing I would mention is that we have an important election coming up. I think it's January 5th, if I remember rightly. And I urge everybody, regardless of how you're going to vote, get out and vote. We need to know who wants what. And I have a preference, but I ain't going to go into the preferences aspect of it. I'm just going to say I think it's important that everybody vote. And with that, I'll pass it on.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Taylor.
So I just want to say happy holidays to everybody. Have a safe holiday. And to piggyback off Councilman Clay, everybody get out to vote. You know, January the 5th, I think, is election day, and vote for the person that's in your best interest. That's it.
Councilman Allen.
Yeah, I'll have to echo the same thing. I had that number one on mine. It's to vote and happy holidays. But, you know, we've all had a bad year. 2020 has just been horrible. But there's a lot of businesses that are suffering, and I wish there was a way that we could help them. You know, maybe it's putting a few of the business names on the marquee, or saying shop local, or send them a letter from the mayor and council thanking them for hanging in there and being with us, and that we're behind them. There ought to be a few things that we could do, you know, to make them feel good, and they're not out there alone, because they've been fighting this battle a long time as well. So we need to be thinking about some things to do. Stay safe, stay healthy, wear your masks. You know, don't get out in crowds during Christmas. I want to see everybody back next year. And Althea, I want to thank your customer service people. They do a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Councilman Gay?
Well, I just had a few things. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on one of the public comments, just for the record. As far as taking care of the elderly and the poor, I just want to talk a little bit about Ward 4 record as it relates to that. During the COVID, we sponsored an action that nobody utilities were cut off. And I think, and I'm not mistaken, that cost the city about $1.25 million. So there is a bit of a utility increase, but it's worth mentioning that the city also took a hit on that when we prevented the cutoffs. The other thing I want to say is that since March, I'm speaking for myself, we went out and we've raised money and we've delivered food since March. That's door to door. And, you know, so I guess I'm an essential worker as well, because we've been delivering food, and that makes a difference to people to get food. And it's been a challenge to do that. We do it every week since March. The other thing is that I don't know about the other wards, but we've had about at least 15 deaths in Ward 4, because I'm honored to be over one of the oldest wards. So I'm over the terms of a lot of people's lives. So I've had the privilege of knowing them at the end of their lives. We've literally gone to about 15 homegoings. In fact, we just went to one at, I was just telling them at the funeral home Friday. I may have gone to more funerals than the funeral home guy. So, but that's our way of staying connected to the community. We're not doing that to get reelected. That's just love. That's what we do. That's our pledge to our community. As far as the police chief, I'm not sure where that's at, but I will tell you that we have had 2 African-American police chiefs back to back, and they both quit. They both left for a better opportunity. So it's not that the city is insensitive to having chiefs that represents the demographic, because we've done that. So I just want to balance the record out, and to that end, do wish everyone a happy holidays. I appreciate the council and mayor tonight for your confidence and great council meeting.
Thank you, sir. I want to echo everyone's sentiments by, first of all, thanking all of our citizens, our staff, our department heads, everyone who has pitched in for this year, because it has been a hard one. It has been a challenge. I want to thank you for your patience. I want to thank you for your perseverance. I want to thank you for all the sacrifices that you have gone through to keep College Park moving forward, because we can't do it without you. There are 5 of us here as elected officials, but we represent this entire city, and we know there have been challenges, and we have done our best to address those challenges, but we know that people in our departments and our neighbors have been stepping up to the plate, and I'm so grateful for all of you and everything that you've done on a daily basis to look out for each other. Talking about voting, we've got some exciting news. We want you to vote, but we want you to vote at the arena starting December 14th through the 30th. We will have early voting there, and we would love for you to come and take advantage of this opportunity, because we want to keep on showing Fulton County that we've got people on the south side that are showing up, that are serious about making sure that their voices are heard. So just check out Fulton County's website, fultoncountyga.gov, for all the details. But voting will be at the arena starting next Monday, December 14th through the 30th. On Wednesday of this week, December 9th, employees should have gotten an invitation for a chat and chew with me and some other folks. So we're going to talk a little bit about all this information that we've been discussing tonight and where we go in the future. So I would encourage all the employees to show up. We've got 4 different time slots, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there. I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but Neighborhood Watch, we're going to get that ramped up hopefully in January. So if you are interested, keep a lookout on our website so you can sign up, because we all know that we're all part of this building the community that we deserve. So part of that is being eyes and ears for each other. And I'm excited that we're going to kickstart the Neighborhood Watch once more. Also in January, look for a date. We are looking for a date for another round of the community conversations with the College Park Police, because as I said, when we went through those the first time, it was the start, but it wasn't going to be the finish, because we still need to keep the lanes of communication open, and to make sure that you as citizens and visitors and residents in this city understand how our police department protects and serves you, and making sure that our police are hearing what our residents need. So we will be doing that again. So be on the lookout for another community conversation in January 2021. Also, the governor still has in place an executive order in regard to COVID. And just today in Georgia, I get an email every day. We had 4,861 new cases of COVID that were diagnosed. The numbers are rising. It is vitally important that we all do our part, including washing our hands, wearing masks, and making sure that we're employing social distancing. And that goes for our businesses as well. And so the governor's executive order has specific guidelines about how many people can be in businesses at a particular time, how people should govern themselves while they're in there. And so we've had some issues with businesses in certain areas not necessarily complying with that. But we want to make sure that we get the word out that we're looking for this, because we want to make sure that everyone is safe. We need people to comply with that. And I understand it's difficult in these times when business is can be a little shaky, because we're just getting people back through the doors. But we also have to maintain a balance with what our governor has said we need to comply with. So certainly that's something that we'll be looking for, and we hope that everyone will comply. And that is all I have. I hope everyone has a fantastic holiday season.
Wait a minute, we got to vote.
No,
on
I know we've got other stuff too. I was just
right.
getting I know there's other stuff, but that was all I had. I know it's sort of a long list here. I felt like Councilman Clay for a second. I had so much to say. But I hope everyone has a safe, healthy, joyous holiday season. And we need to, I believe there's one motion out of executive session. It's personnel item number 1. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
1.
Okay. All right. So that's Councilman Clay, Councilman Allen, Councilman Taylor in favor, and Councilman Gay abstains. All right. The motion passes. And we need to approve those executive session minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. That was unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. It is 10:29. We're just short of 3 hours, and I think it's a good time to adjourn. Happy holidays, everybody. Take care.
Good meeting, all.
Good night.
Night.
Night, everybody.
Hey, Shavela.